and welcome back to another episode of Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam. I'm your host, Dr. Cam, and today I'm so excited to have Todd Avery, who is a professional driving coach. And I don't know about you guys, but I have a 15-year-old that's already claiming that the family car is hers and getting nervous. So I'm excited to talk to you, Todd, because I need a lot of advice and help and the need to calm down because I'm already starting to panic a little. So welcome. Thank you for jumping on and joining me today.
Thank you. Glad to be here. And yeah, just so you know, Doc, you're going through the same emotions that every other parent goes through, realizing, oh my God, my kid's 15, they're going to be turning 16. What am I going to do? Last time I looked at them, they were this big. Now I'm looking at them next to me, they're driving. What am I going to do? So I'll be able to help you. I can help your audience. I can help the parents. I can help the students, the kids. I'm here to help. It's all good.
That's fantastic. So how in the world did you get into wanting to teach not just your own teens, but all teens how to drive, which most people run as far away from that as they possibly can?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into the role. It's one of those things where you just weren't looking for it. It just kind of fell into your plate. So a little of a background. So I'm a car guy. I've been a car guy my entire life. I used to own a bunch of different detailing businesses. I used to sell automotive products on live television on QVC for about 10 years. But for the past 15, almost 20 years, I've been a high-speed driving instructor. So I teach people how to drive their race cars and sports cars on a racetrack. And I truly love that. Being a car guy, I was working for a really good friend of mine, kind of helping him at the service department at a car dealership. And one of our clients was a driving school. So I struck up a conversation with the gentleman. He was an older guy, looking to retire kind of thing. And I said, I'm a performance driving coach. He says, oh my God. He's like, we're always looking for driving instructors. So we put this whole program together. Long story short, it didn't work out for he and I from a partnership standpoint. But I really found something that I truly love to do is sitting in the passenger seat and teaching teens defensive, responsible driving habits and driving skills. So again, wasn't really looking for it. And then here I am. And then in the state of Pennsylvania, you have to work for either one or several driving schools for 2 years before you can own your own. So I put my time in, and now here I am, 2021. Not only with my own driving school, I've just, during the pandemic, it's been crazy. My business has grown. So
Wow.
I added another driving coach, another driving vehicle, another driving school card rather. And we're ready to rock and roll. Bring it on.
Thank goodness for people like you that have that calling, because we need it so desperately. And I'm guessing, you're feeling safe in a car if you're able to go that speed and teach people how to speed, how to race. I just did a race car experience going 167 miles per hour. It was awesome, but
Super.
I wasn't driving. I would have probably gone like 5 miles an hour if I had been
Gotcha.
driving. So I really admire your ability to do that. So
thank you.
Tell us, and I know you've taught your own kids how to drive, right? So give us some tips, first of all, on how to get our mindset in the right place, and then a little bit on how do we convey and teach our kids, because your goal is to get them to be responsible, safe drivers, which is all of our goals.
Correct.
How do we do that?
So it's not easy, right? So the couple of different things we're going to talk about today in regards to helping moms and dads, right? It comes down to having patience. So as parents, we're great at being parents. We're not always great at teaching certain things. For example, if your son or daughter wants to learn how to play a musical instrument, pick up a guitar or a saxophone or whatever, you're not going to try and teach them unless you have that musical background. You bring in a coach or an instructor or a tutor or whatever it may be. But the idea is, for parents, you guys are going to be doing the bulk of the driving with your own team. You hire a coach like myself. Yes, if you have deep pockets, and I'll spend all your money and we'll do all of the hours and lessons. But for the most part, a lot of it is with driving with moms and dads. So how do we help the moms and dads work with our teens? First things first, once they get their permit, do not put them on the roads. You always go to a big, empty, open parking lot. always. I hear horror stories that I hear through the grapevine that a student went and got their permit and dad was like, yeah, come on, you can drive home, never drove before, and they totaled the car. So it's crazy, absolutely crazy. So you start in a parking lot and forget even hitting the gas pedal. Let's go over the basics. Make sure their seat is set properly. Make sure their mirrors are set properly. So we as parents, we know how to set up our seat and how to set up our mirrors. Try and explain that to your son or your daughter. This is what we do first. Make sure their seatbelt's on. And then go over what we call the controls, the turn signals, the lights, the wipers. Make sure they know which pedal is the brake. You'd be surprised. Like, wait, which pedal down there is the brake?
Yeah.
It's the big one in the middle, right? That says brake on it. Make sure they know how to, like I said, the turn signals, hit the horn, the four-way flashers. These are some of the very basics things, which, by the way, you have not put the car into drive. It's still in park. So you go over those things because what happens is the adrenaline is pumping, not only from the kid's standpoint, but the parents, because they're anxious, a little bit nervous, right? So now you're going to have them, okay, now you're going to put the car into drive. However, do not hit the gas pedal. And you're thinking, oh, so wait a second, how's the car going to go? Well, the transmission, once you put the car into gear, it's going to move. New drivers don't know how much pedal pressure they need to one, put on the brake, and two, put on the gas pedal. Same scenario. Sometimes they get confused. It's all new to them. They don't know how much pedal pressure. So they put the car in a drive, put the thing in the gas. Next thing you know, they're flying backwards. They're going up the curb. They're hitting a tree. It's horrible. So everything has to slow down.
Okay.
So let me circle back. Start in a parking lot. Get comfortable with just steering and turning. Some students don't know how to turn properly. Well, how do you turn? Well, moms and dads have to kind of coach them. Okay. So best advice, patience. And if it gets too much where you want to strangle them and it's all this headbutting, then take a break and try it again at a different time. So patience is what you have to work on. If you do yoga, right? Breathing, right? Right before we signed on here, you said take 4 big, giant, deep breaths in, 4 big, deep, giant breaths out. It works. You want to become Zen-like and have patience. That's what it takes.
You say it as though it's easy, but yes, it's going to be hard. And I think, so much of what you're saying is such great, useful tips. I wouldn't even have thought of just not even pressing the gas and just starting in neutral and doing all that, and getting them comfortable just in the car and possibly us comfortable in the passenger seat.
Yep.
But I know, you were saying that most of us, we have to bring in someone to teach them. But even when we know how to do stuff, because I know, like, I've tried to teach my daughter to play guitar, and parents teaching their kids stuff tends to get very tenuous.
Yep.
And I know we're pretty much going to have to teach them to drive. So how do we maintain this calmness and this patience and this dynamic that we're not going to be yelling at one another?
That's a good question. Wow. It's suggestions, breathing, realizing, having the conversation with not only moms and dads, but also the students. So for example, here's how I present it, right, to moms and dads. So I show up to the house and I'm the perceived expert, right? Because they called for the professionals and they didn't pick up the phone. They got stuck with me, right? It's all good there. So I talk to the students and I talk to the moms and dads. And this is what I basically say to them. That moms and dads, you look at your kids like you just gave birth to them 16 years ago. And now you're looking at them and now they're mature, they're 16-year-olds. So from a student's perspective, they have to understand that that's how moms and dads look at them. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the reality. So what I try and do is put moms and dads' thoughts and their head processes in the students' heads to realize what they're going through. And there's anxiety on both ends. So most of the time it works out. There's been lots of times where it doesn't work out. I could tell you stories all day that literally moms and daughters stop talking.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, Mom, I'm not getting in the car with you. I don't want to talk to you. Same thing with the daughter or the sons. It doesn't matter. There's no rhyme, not rhyme or reason. There's no exact science.
Yeah.
It's not that all dads are great at it, or all moms are great at it, or all sons are better drivers, all daughters are better drivers. There's no exact science. It just comes down to patience and practice. And like learning any new skill, the more you do it, the better you become at it, the more comfortable you become at it. And you can't rush this process. You just
Mm.
can't. It's a lot to process because as a teen, you're sitting next to mom and dad as they're driving. What are they doing? They're on their phones. Yep. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that stuff. Right. Well, so for example, here's a great idea. So take your family, for example. So your daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 15 now, start prompting her. Say, listen, we're going to go down to the mall. We're going to go do some shopping. When you're sitting next to me, I want you to look and I want you to start to observe all the things that I observe and have a conversation. Make it not interesting, but make it, that's the word I'm looking for, not proactive, but something that they can enjoy. Because when they're a passenger, there's zero pressure because you're doing all the hard work. You're sitting next to them. But what you can do is you can explain to them, say, listen, see the red traffic light up there? Notice I just took my foot off the gas and now I'm coasting, right? You don't want to accelerate to a red light. Or do you happen to notice there's a black car behind us? No, I had no idea. Well, check your side view mirror. You see the pedestrian all the way in the distance walking the dog? No. Oh, these are some of the things that I, as a driver, look for and I process. So that might be a good suggestion to start them earlier, whether they have their permit or not, as they're in the car, make that time a little bit more valuable. And now they might be perking up, you know what? I didn't really realize how much there is to process because there is a tremendous amount of information that every student has to process. And a lot of times when I'm in the car with them, they don't realize it because I'm filling their brain with stuff. What are you looking at? What are the signs telling you? What's the speed limit? How come you're going 45 when the speed limit's 25? What's the color of the car behind you? So it's a lot to process. It's about vision with how far down the road you're looking. The physical part, right? The steering, the turning, the acceleration and braking. There's a tremendous amount that goes into driving a vehicle. We as parents, we do it. It's second nature. We get in, put our belt on, start it up, we're good to go. So maybe that might help.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought, and I'm going to start doing that like today, of having her basically driving with me. And there's so much I love about this because I'm all about like the teen brain development, and we're creating those connections and strengthening those connections while they're still calm, right? Before they get behind the wheel, which all of a sudden, all the adrenaline goes and our brains get hijacked by like anxiety and emotions. And there's so much to think about and we're going to forget everything. But if we've spent the past year building those automatic connections of what you're looking at, oh my gosh, we just took a huge piece of the puzzle. That's brilliant. Why have I not
thought of that? That's genius. Just saying, right? It's all good.
So great. Because we're strengthening that and we're creating it so it becomes automatic to them before they're behind the wheel. Oh, I love that. I'm also having my sister teach her because I know I'm going to be late. But I think this is so great. So when we get to the point, what if we're one of these parents and we're like, oh my God, my teen is just not a good driver. And I know a lot of us are fear of that, or they have really difficulty. I know my daughter has ADHD, and so paying attention can be a challenge. Do you have any suggestions for us if we're just struggling with some of the skills or being able to pay attention?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So one, I am trained to teach and coach students with learning challenges. So ADD, ADHD, extreme anxiety, high nervousness. So that's one thing that I'm trained in. So how can we relay that to our students? So let's just say you've got a student that it has ADD and they just can't focus, and maybe you're not quite sure about medication. And let me just say this: I am not a doctor, right? However, I have seen situations where students have been diagnosed with a learning challenge and they start the medication and they get behind the wheel, they are a different person. They're calm, they're focused. I can have a conversation with them. They can process things. And again, I'm not advocating, drugs, but I am saying I've seen it, I've witnessed it. It does work. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if they're on medication, to help them, keep them on it. Because the last thing you want to do, if that process is working and it's keeping them focused, and now it's the weekend, like, it's the weekend, they don't take the medication on the weekend, and then you go to put them in the car, you're looking for trouble, you're looking for disaster. So if they're already in that program, keep it going. Okay. One of the things that we didn't talk about yet is how to specifically teach your teen specific verbiage. So for example, I've created a series of videos, right? It's called the Parents Survival Guide for New Teen Drivers. And it's just like what we're doing here. It's one-on-one conversation. It's me talking to moms and dads, and it's giving you specific tricks and tips on how to help your own teens to drive. The last thing you want to do is be headbutting, because it's not fun for anybody. And then the next thing you know, it's just not, well, come on, let's go for a drive. Yeah, well, last time I was crying for 3 hours, where I wanted to rip your neck off, whether that's the teen or the parent, it could go either way.
Both ways.
So I have that it's available as well. Look, at the end of the day, your teens better than anybody, because you're living with them and you've raised them, obviously. If you're in an area that I don't serve, which is, I think we're at a national broadcast here, when you go to find a driving school, ask them, have you worked with students with learning challenges? See what they say. There is a nationwide program that is out there specifically for driving schools and driving instructors and coaches that can help, that trains them to ultimately help train the student with those learning challenges. So it's important to make sure that whoever you do hire, one, you're always going to check the reviews, right? Make sure reviews are high, not just, everything was great. You want great glowing reviews. With my company, I wanted to be diversified. So I brought on a female driving coach. So you might have students that the moms or dads like, you know what? They only feel comfortable with a male instructor, or they only feel comfortable with a female instructor. At the end of the day, you want your teen to be comfortable, because if you think about it, the whole thing's bizarre, right? And I kind of joke about it. So you imagine you have a strange man coming to pick up your daughter to go in a strange car in a strange drive. And oh, by the way, we're wearing masks, right? So the whole thing is bizarre.
Yeah.
Right? And on the same token, I joke about it. Well, think about my perspective as a driving coach. I'm coming to pick up a teenager who, one, I don't know. Two, they don't know how to drive, and they're driving my car, right? So the whole thing is bizarre, right? And also the last piece is, whatever driving school that you do go with, make sure that they are licensed, they're insured, and that the vehicle that they're driving does have the instructor's brake on the passenger side floor. I also call that the lifesaver. Right? So it's all good there.
Great tips. And so parents, first of all, video, how do we find that? Because I need to watch it.
Yep. So I'm on Facebook. So Safe Driving Coach, you look me up on Facebook. I also have my website, which is safedrivingcoach.com. And I've got parent videos. I've got lessons where you can teach them in a parking lot, teach them how to drive on the highway, parallel parking. So we've got drone videos that we've created to show exactly how to parallel park. So I've always, no matter what business I've been in, I've always been an entrepreneur my whole career. I've always separated myself from the competition, because you're going to have competition. You drive down the street, you got 3 different banks on 3 different corners. You got, 4 different drugstores in every corner. You're always going to have competition. But I set myself apart. And the idea is, with trying to help not only the parents, help the grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever may be, helping the students. It's not about passing the driver's test. The test is easy. Honestly, it is. It's a joke. With COVID, the examiners don't even get into the car. It's a whole nother story. I won't bore you with that. However, it's not about the test. It's about being three things: a safe, aware, responsible driver. And it does not happen overnight. It takes hours of practice. And the last thing you want to do is take your son or your daughter to the test and you're thinking, well, yeah, they'll be okay. They'll pass the test and yeah, they'll be fine. No. Here's the question you want to ask yourself, moms and dads. And this question I ask all the time to the students and the parents. For example, Johnny's going for his license tomorrow. This is the question I want you to ask yourself. Do you think he's ready to be driving on the roads by himself? And it's a very simple, in my opinion, a simple yes or no answer. If you hesitate, well, you know, he's good locally, but he might need, then that's the answer. You don't want to hesitate. So when both of my daughters went for their test, 2 years apart, I asked my wife the same question. I already knew the answer. I asked her the same question. Babe, we're going for the test today. Do you think she's ready for her license? Without hesitation, she says yes. Both my daughters logged over 100 hours each of driving before their test. Not just because I own a driving school, and not just because I'm a driving coach, because one, we wanted them to drive. They wanted to drive. And basically, wherever we went, they drove. Highway, city, local, back roads, at night, in the rain. Any situation that they're going to experience, we experienced with them. So we knew when the day came for them to get their driver's license, they were as prepared as they could be. Now, let me say this also. You never know. You can get in the car. You could be the safest, most aware, most defensive, most responsible driver. It takes one, what I call nitwit knucklehead driver to ruin it all. So you always have to be that defensive driver, to always expect the unexpected. And that's the message that I say. Expect the unexpected. You just don't know what can happen. It can happen at any moment.
That's so important. And are there any kind of signs or things to look for to say, you know, like, here's some skills that can indicate they're getting it? Like, are there any kind of key things that you're like, make sure they know how to do this really well?
Well, is there one thing specific? No, it's a lot of things. What I find as a coach is to ask a lot of questions. We as parents, we like to tell them what to do. Didn't you see the traffic light? What was wrong? Didn't you see the stop sign? What's wrong with you? Right? That's telling them. As a coach, you ask questions. What are the signs telling you? How far down the road are you looking? And you want to be specific with your question because you want specific answers. Well, Mom, I'm looking all the way down the road. I'm looking down there. I know what I'm doing, right? That's not the answer. What are you looking at specifically? What's the color of the car behind you? Most new drivers don't even look in the rearview mirror. But by asking these questions, it helps you determine, one, what they're seeing, how far down the road they're looking, and what they're processing. And then the best question is, what else? Because now that new driver is thinking, well, what else am I missing? Like, what else is out there? And again, all of these things have to be said in a calm, soothing voice. Not, all right, what do we see out there? What's the sign? What are you doing? Oh my God, you're going too fast, right? And a great question and a timing standpoint. So, for example, you're driving down the road with your teen driver, and the speed limit sign just passes you. And then you ask them, okay, what's the speed limit? And they're like, I'm not sure, 35. So what that tells you is they didn't see the sign, right? Which again is all normal. So don't think that they're doing things wrong on purpose. They're doing them wrong because they just don't know. And how do you learn a new skill? You got to make mistakes, right? So I'm okay with my students making mistakes because that's how they learn. And again, I have a brake on my side because a lot of them make a lot of mistakes.
How do we get one of those installed in our own cars? This is such great information, and I think so much of what I teach you've just said, but with cars, which I think just adds this whole other level of just fear factor, right? But it's so important to allow them to figure it out. And asking them the question, I think, is so powerful because you're not assuming they don't know, which automatically puts them on the defense.
Correct.
You're actually assuming they do know, and you're just kind of like casually asking to get that information, which empowers them and doesn't put them on that. So I love that angle and that format. So that's fantastic. This has been so helpful. I'm actually feeling better. I'm gonna go watch your videos though and
Awesome.
study up. And we're gonna start right today having her call out what she sees and like speed limits and stop all that stuff. I think that's fantastic, and have her basically actively passively driving.
Yeah,
Um,
and the idea is so very specifically is, what's the speed limit sign say?
mhm.
35. Okay, so now she's driving next to you and you're like, okay, great. Why are you going 25? So new drivers can't sense speed. They
Yeah,
just don't. So I know we're kind of wrapping up here. I want to give you a couple of great
please
tips
do.
and tidbits. Okay. So tell me what every kid at some point in their life loves to do. I don't know. My kids and me go karting. You're thinking go karting? That's a lot of fun, right?
Mhm.
How can I help you with driving? Here's the deal. With go karting, first of all, you're literally sitting on the ground. You can't get any closer to the ground. What does that do? It forces your eyes up. With a go kart, and whether you're indoor or outdoors, it doesn't matter. We got the nicer weather coming here. Hopefully, you get some outdoor time. But what that does is it forces your eyes to keep moving, because
Mhm.
again, some of the skills and some of the tricks that we teach or we coach is where you look is where you go. Your
Mm.
hands will
Mm.
follow your eyes. So take them go-karting when they're 14, 15, and have them start to get that skill process down. The braking and the acceleration, that'll come in time. It's vision,
Mm.
right? So where you look is where you go. And then patience. That's the biggest thing, is just patience.
Patience, and where you look is where you go. This is
Correct.
such good stuff. Such great stuff. So again, they can find you at where?
So it's safedrivingcoach.com. Pretty simple.
Yep.
It's not the Todd's Driving School. And I thought a lot about the name of the company because I want, again, separating myself from everybody else. Those three words exactly describe what we do. We
Yep.
coach safe driving. It's
Perfect.
pretty simple, right?
And,
Straightforward.
and
So
that's what we need.
safedrivingcoach.com. On the internet. I'm also on Instagram, Safe Driving Coach. I'm on Facebook, Safe Driving Coach. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm really good about getting back to people. Look, at the end of the day, this is not a job for me. I coach from the heart because I'm driving the same roads my students are driving on. So is my wife and my two daughters. So
Yeah.
again, three things: safe, aware, responsible drivers.
This is great, and I'm going to put you on speed dial in a few months. So
Awesome.
thank you so much, Scott. I really, really appreciate Todd. Why did I just call you Scott?
That's
Thank you
okay.
so much.
I've been called worse. It's no big deal.
Thank you so much. I loved having you, and this was so helpful. And thank you, parents, for jumping on and joining us. And if you found these tips helpful, which I know I did, share them with your other friends that also have teen drivers.
Spread the word.
Yes.